Can you please state and spell your last name for the record?
Rebecca Merryfield, Merryfield.
What is your occupation?
An investigator with the Dunn County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been a sworn law enforcement officer?
A little over 2 years.
On March 24th of 2018, were you assigned to take photographs of the defendant Ezra McCandless?
Yes.
What, if any, information did you have before you completed this task?
I was not given any information at that time.
Why were you assigned to complete this task?
My understanding was that she was possibly involved in a homicide.
And are you the only female officer at the Dunn County Sheriff's Office?
Correct.
And where did you go to take photographs?
At, I believe it was Mayo in Eau Claire.
Do you know how many days passed from the incident in question from the time you took the photographs?
2 days.
Did you know whether the defendant had showered?
That was unknown to me at that time.
Did you know if the defendant was wearing different clothes from the date in question?
She was wearing different clothes.
And is the same person who you photographed on March 24th, 2018 present in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you describe what she's wearing, where she is seated?
She is seated on the table to the left of me with glasses and a black jacket.
Okay, record will reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Ms. McCandless.
What process did you follow when you took photographs?
Our department policies, using our department issued cameras.
And did you question the defendant at all while you were taking photographs?
No.
And what did you do with the camera once you were done taking photographs?
I turned it over to Investigator Conkey.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you a packet of different photographs that have been marked as exhibits 308 on the back, 309, 311, 312, 314, 316 through 327, and 329.
Madam Clerk, did you get all those?
I can repeat again, 308.
That's okay. We have it,
Okay.
unless you do need it.
And do you recognize those photographs?
Yes.
And are those the photographs you took back on March 24th, 2018?
Yes, they are.
And are they accurate depictions?
Yes.
It move exhibits 308, 39, 311, 312, 314, 316 through 327, and 329 into evidence.
316 through what? 27?
327, yes.
And then after that, what was it?
329.
329. Okay. All right, any objection on those photographs?
No, but I would like to be heard about publication if they ever get to that point.
And I will be asking to publish them to the jury.
All right, was this an issue we discussed on Friday?
Not on these, Judge. Can we just approach?
Okay. No sidebar.
Okay, now if I could publish exhibit 308 from the projector.
Judge, no objection to the publication of any of these photos except for 326, which was previously discussed.
Was there, I thought there were two. 326 and one other.
322.
Okay, then I needed the screen off so I can delete that.
Yes.
Okay, now I can publish 308. Yes. So I'm showing you what's been marked as exhibit 308. Can you explain for the jury what this is a picture of?
This is a full body view of the defendant.
Oops. And then moving to Exhibit 309, what is this a photograph of?
A full body view of the backside of the defendant.
Moving to Exhibit 311, what is depicted in this photograph?
The defendant's right hand with a small mark on the palm.
And Investigator, if I hand you a red dot, if you would mind pointing that mark out for the jury? Right here. Okay, thank you. And Exhibit 312, what is depicted in this photograph?
The top side of the defendant's hand with 3 marks on top.
Turning to Exhibit 314, what is depicted in this photograph?
The left bottom side of the defendant's hand with scratches and a mark on the thumb.
Exhibit 316. What's depicted in this photograph?
The left forearm of the defendant with scratches.
And do you know what the Band-Aid is there for?
I believe it was from lab work that she was having.
Exhibit 317. What's in this photograph?
The top side of the defendant's left forearm with scratches on it.
Exhibit 318, what's depicted in this photograph?
The front close-up face of the defendant.
And Exhibit 319, what is depicted in this photograph?
The left profile side of the face of the defendant.
And Exhibit 320, what is depicted in this photograph?
The right profile face of the defendant showing a small mark on her bottom lip.
And if you could just point that out for the jury using that red mark. Okay, thank you. And Exhibit 321, what is depicted in this photograph?
The back of the defendant's head.
Turning to Exhibit 323, what is depicted in this photograph?
The abdomen of the defendant showing a small mark or scratch.
And is that your hand holding up a scale?
No, there was a nurse in there as well.
And I see some potentially red marks on the scale. Do you know what those are from?
Those are from evidence tape used in a prior case.
So that isn't anything blood related to this
Correct.
case? Okay. Turning to Exhibit 324, what is depicted in this photograph?
The top side of the defendant's feet with small marks on both of her middle toes.
And could you point that out using the red pointer for the jury? Okay, thank you. Turning to Exhibit 325, what is depicted in this photograph?
The bottom side of the defendant's feet with a small mark on the right foot middle toe.
Is that? Could you point that out again for the jury? Okay, Thank you. Turning to Exhibit 327, what is depicted in this photograph?
The defendant's upper thigh, I believe it was the right thigh, with scratches and what looks to be 2 puncture marks.
And Exhibit 329, what's depicted in this photograph?
A close-up of the defendant's lip showing a small scratch on the lip.
Okay, thank you, I'm done with that. Also, you have in front of you Exhibit 326 that wasn't displayed. Can you explain for the jury what's depicted in this photograph?
The defendant's backside full body view with the defendant just in her underwear.
And Exhibit 322, what's depicted in that photograph?
The defendant's backside, again, a full body view with her shirt and bra off, just pants and socks on.
I'd request to circulate this photograph through the jury.
You may.
And Investigator Merryfield, did you see any injuries on the defendant's back in either one of those photographs?
No, I did not.
Did you also take some photographs of the defendant that were more sensitive in nature that day?
Yes,
And prior to taking those photographs, did you have the defendant remove her shirt and any undergarments?
yes,
Did you also have her move her underwear to the side?
yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may. Has counsel had an opportunity to show these to the defense team?
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge, could we just brief sidebar?
And Investigator Merryfield, if you can open up that binder. I believe it's Exhibit 331. And is the, does this contain true and accurate copies of the photographs you took on March 24th of 2018?
Yes,
I would move Exhibit 331 into evidence and request to publish to the jury.
Great. Again, microphone is off. Okay. We'll address the sidebar later, but subject to the objection by the defense, Exhibit 331 will be received. You may publish them to the jury in the private, I guess, the pictures that have been prepared in the binders for the jury. But I'll just note for the record, they will not be published on the courtroom projector.
So if we turn to the first page of Exhibit 331, I believe it's image number 641. Investigator, what is depicted in this photograph?
the full body view of the front side of the defendant without a shirt or undergarments on.
And it appears there's some blacked out areas over the defendant's chest.
Objection irrelevant. I don't think we need to.
Well, is there stipulation, or you want the court to
No,
address it?
Fair enough. Move on. Sorry.
Okay.
I would still like to
Objections
ask
withdrawn.
if there was
Go
any
ahead.
injuries
You may-
underneath that
You may
black.
ask the question.
Thank you. Investigator, were there any injuries underneath the blacked out areas?
No,
And did you observe any additional injuries in this picture that you had not photographed earlier?
no,
Turning to the next page, image number 643. What is this a photograph of?
A close-up of the defendant's bare chest and abdomen.
Turning to photograph 648, what is depicted in this photograph?
A full-body view of the front side of the defendant with only underwear on.
And turning to the next page, 650, what is depicted in this photograph?
A right profile side view of the entire body of the defendant with only underwear on.
And turning to image 654, what is depicted in this photograph?
A close-up of the defendant's pubic region showing a couple scratches on her upper right thigh.
Turning to the next page, image 656, what is depicted in this photograph?
Another close-up view of the defendant's thigh, upper thigh, showing the scratches with a scale for measurement.
And turning to image 657, what is depicted in this photograph?
A close-up of the defendant's upper thigh and genital region showing the scratches going from her thigh up to her pubic region.
And turning to the next page, 658, what is depicted in this photograph?
The defendant's upper thigh and pubic region showing the scratches going from the thigh to the pubic region with a scale for measurement.
And finally, image 659, what is depicted in this photograph?
The defendant's upper thigh with the underwear pulled down showing the pubic region and the top of the scratches going up the pubic region.
Okay, thank you. And were the photographs taken in Exhibit 331, this binder, were they taken the same date and time as the earlier photographs?
Yes,
3 days later, on March 27th of 2019, did you take some additional photographs of the defendant?
yes.
When you took additional photographs of the defendant, did you observe any additional marks, bruises, or scratches that you did not observe on March 24th, 2018?
No.
I have no further questions.
All right, any cross-examination?
Yes, Judge. You work at the Dunn County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
How many employees work at the Dunn County Sheriff's Department?
I'm not sure how many total, but there's about 18 sworn.
18 sworn officers?
Correct.
And you're the only female of those 18 sworn officers?
Full-time, yes.
All 17 of the other people that you mentioned are males.
Correct.
You were asked to show up on March 24th, is that right?
Yes,
To show up to the hospital, is that right?
correct.
To have contact with Ms. McCandless, correct?
Yes,
And prior to you having contact with Ms. McCandless, you met with Mr. Prock from the Eau Claire Police Department, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
You met with one of the 17 male officers from Dunn County, Brett Conkey, is that right?
Correct.
Had anybody invited you in prior to your showing up to just take photos, to take part in the interview as the only female officer from Dunn County?
Objection relevance?
Sustained.
Were you asked to participate in an interview of Ms. McCandless at all?
I don't believe so.
At any time had you been?
I don't believe so.
Just there to take camera pictures?
Correct.
I would imagine you an investigator?
Not at that time.
Okay. You've since become an investigator?
Yes,
You've certainly interviewed people before, is that right?
yes.
You have some training on trauma victims?
Objection relevance.
Go, it's relevant, Judge.
Well,
She
I'm
didn't,
going to sustain the objection because this particular witness was not involved with the interview, as I understand it.
That's exactly my point. And so I think I'm able to bring out what, if any, qualification she had to be there as the one and only female officer in Dunn County. We've heard from the last witness.
Mr. Nelson, the court does not believe that is relevant. I mean, you've made your point already. You've made your point with other witnesses, so let's move on. Let's move past this.
When you were there on the 24th, you were asked to take, I'm just trying to get us back. You're there on the 24th, you're asked to take photos at the hospital of Ms. McCandless, correct?
Correct.
You're in a room alone with Ms. McCandless, agreed?
Not alone.
There's nobody else in there but the two of you,
That's not correct.
okay? Who else is in there?
There was a nurse, I believe, from the hospital that was also in there.
Okay, do you know this nurse's name?
No,
Do you have any documentation of who this person is?
no,
When they were in there?
no,
That you have reviewed the medical records in any way, shape, or form to see if there's a medical record to confirm what you say happened?
no.
Because the photos show a hand holding a ruler in there, correct?
Correct.
And that's Ezra McCandless's hand, is it not?
I believe for some of the photos, it was her hand, and then others, it was a nurse.
Are you able to point out to me which photo that you've been shown? You have all the exhibits up there still?
Yes.
Can you just look at the photos and tell me which photo has a hand, has anybody in it other than Ezra McCandless? So I see you've paged through all of the photos that were not included in binder 331, is that right?
Correct.
And you would agree with me that the photo depicts any hand holding a ruler or moving an article of clothing, that those are all Ms. McCandless's hands?
I believe so, yes.
Did you wanted to review, I take it, exhibit 331 as well?
Yes.
Same for exhibit 331. If there is a hand included in the photo, it's the hand of Ms. McCandless, agreed?
I believe so, yes.
There's no other hands in any of the photos that have just been admitted into evidence, agreed?
Correct.
When you arrived, as you said, you did not know what, if any, injuries others had observed of Ms. McCandless, agreed?
Correct.
You did not know what, if any, injuries others had documented, agreed?
Correct.
You'd not been shown any medical reports from the hospital that you were at, agreed?
That's correct.
You'd not been shown any previous photographs taken by a sane examiner there at that hospital, agreed?
Correct.
And when you, so I imagine you, for lack of a better term, kind of went in cold, right?
Correct.
You want to make sure you're just covering everything, agreed?
Yes.
Nothing in particular, but just make sure you're covering everything broad strokes, right?
Yes.
And then if something catches your eye, it appears as if you then did more photos of that area. Is that right?
Correct.
And when you were there, you were not asking Ms. McCandless questions, right?
Correct, other than maybe asking her to hold the,
Just instructional questions for the most part, right?
correct.
And they weren't really questions as much as they were, for lack of a better term, orders,
Yes.
maybe more properly, polite requests.
Correct.
And whenever you made polite requests to Ms. McCandless, she cooperated, correct?
Yes.
She always agreed and did what you asked.
Yes.
So when you're taking these photos, you're never asking her, show me where you're injured, agreed?
Correct.
You don't ask her that.
Correct.
You just take photos of whatever it is that you see, right?
Yes.
You made out a report regarding this as well, is that right?
I guess I'm not sure for these photos I did a report, but the one on the 27th I did.
You made out a report regarding what you did on March 24th, 2018, did you not?
I guess I'm not sure if I had for that incident or not.
Okay. Showing you it's been stamped DOJ 235 and 236. Does that appear to be a report that you made regarding your March 24th activities?
Yes.
So you did make out a report about that?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Sounds like you haven't read it recently.
Nope.
But would it surprise you that you wrote in your report that Ezra consented to all the pictures being taken?
Jackson asked and answered.
I don't believe I asked her about the report and what she wrote.
I'm going to overrule. Go ahead, you may answer.
Would it surprise you that you wrote in your report that you were told Ezra consented to the pictures being taken?
No, that does not surprise me.
And then again, it surprised you that if in your report you said that you were going to take photos of her and she told you it was okay?
That doesn't surprise me.
And when you did those things, Ezra always either nodded up or down or said the words yes.
That doesn't surprise me.
Do you recall in your testimony today, you used the word mark occasionally, is that right?
Correct.
But in your report, when you were describing like what happened to her lip, you said the word cut, is that right?
If that's what it says in the report, then yes.
Would it refresh your memory to see that?
Sure.
Showing you, again, DOJ 236, if you get a chance, just read the top, read whatever you want, but highlighted the portion that I want to ask the questions about. Just read it to yourself.
Okay.
Does that refresh your memory?
Yep.
Back on March, I'm guessing you wrote this report very soon after you did this, right?
Correct.
For some of the reasons that were just seen demonstrated today is you don't always remember what you do a year and a half later, right?
Yep.
And so in your report, you said Ezra had cuts on her, and then you listed places including her lip. Is that right?
Correct.
But today you didn't use that word, you used the word mark.
Correct.
Did you meet with the prosecution team in preparation for your testimony today?
Objection relevance.
I'm going to overrule. You may answer. Goes to credibility.
Correct.
The photos in particular, I want to go through some of them, right? Exhibit, do you have them there in front of you?
Yes.
Could I have the Elmo on, Madam? I want to ask you about Exhibit 320. Is Exhibit 320, do you have that in your hand?
Yes.
And if you turn around to your right, does the image on the screen appear to be the same image that you're looking at on Exhibit 320?
Yes.
And it's on this image where you'd previously testified about the mark on the lip, is that correct?
Correct.
But as we can see on the screen there, that's the cut that you referenced in your report on her lip, is that right?
Correct.
Did anyone tell you prior to your taking the photos about an abrasion to her neck?
No.
Did anyone ask you to document or take photos of an abrasion to her neck?
Not that I recall.
Do you see on Exhibit 320 underneath her right mandible a discoloration of her skin on the right side of her neck?
I do not.
You see this discoloration here? Did you see where I was pointing my arrow?
Yes.
Would you agree that that's a different color than the area to the left of it as I'm looking at it? You agree it's a different color, ma'am?
As shadowing, yes.
So you agree this is one color, and then there's a color in the middle, and then there's a different color over here. But as I move my pointer across here, you're saying there's only two colors, you're not saying that there's three colors. Is that your testimony?
I can't tell whether or not there's a marker if it's a shadow from her face.
So it's unclear based upon the photo, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't, because you weren't told certain information, you didn't necessarily know whether you should or you shouldn't take close-ups of certain areas. Agreed?
Correct.
You did the best that you could on that day with the information that you had, right?
Correct.
And the information that you had was very little.
Correct.
Again, showing that on the, so what I'm showing on the Elmo, is that appear to be the same Exhibit 329 that you have in your hand? Agreed?
Yes.
And it's again on this Exhibit 329 where the cut to her lip is documented in the photo. Agreed?
Correct.
I'm going to ask you about 327, okay? The picture on the screen now, that is Exhibit 327, is that right?
Yes.
And you're familiar with the phrase parallel, is that right?
Yes.
You've heard the expression parallel lines never meet, agreed?
Correct.
You see the marks on the leg here?
Yes.
You said there is what appears to be 2 puncture wounds, is that right?
Correct.
And then there appears to be, on the, I'm going to orient it to the, should we look at it as from the viewer's perspective or from Ezra's leg? Left and right? What's easier for you?
We can do it from our perspective.
From our perspective, to the, as you're looking at the photo, to the left of the 2 puncture wounds, there's some cuts up and down on the leg. Is that agreed?
Correct.
And then to the right of those 2 puncture wounds, there's some diagonal cuts in an upward and down trajectory, correct?
Correct.
Fair to say that diagonal cuts are going to meet the up and down cuts if they continued, agreed?
Yes.
You would agree that those are not parallel cuts?
Correct.
On this photo here, at least on your photo, fair to say that you can see some discoloration of the skin in the general area where the cuts and the puncture wounds are, correct?
Yes.
You've seen yellowing or a purpling of skin before?
Yes.
What you've commonly thought of as a bruise or a contusion?
Yes.
Does it appear, and you look at this photo itself, not necessarily on the Elmo, but when you look at the photo in your hand, that there is a discoloration consistent with a bruise and a contusion?
Yes.
Judge, can I have permission to publish that photo around to the jury? Because I think it...
Yes, you may publish, is that 327?
Yes.
Okay, they can pass that around.
Any of the photos that we just... Do you know who Dr. Tillotson is?
No.
Did anybody ever request you to give the photos that you took to Dr. Tillotson?
No.
So whether Dr. Tillotson had ever seen these additional photos, you don't know.
I do not know.
You came back, or at another time you met with Ezra McCandless, is that right?
Correct.
And that was on March 27th, is that right?
Correct.
And again, you showed up and you took photographs of her, correct?
Yes.
Photographs, again, I'm not talking about the injuries, but in general, along the same themes that you took on the 24th,
Correct.
both in her clothing and unclothed, agreed?
Yes.
Of the, again, same general areas of the body, agreed?
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, did you all have an opportunity to see Exhibit 327? Okay. Record will reflect the jury has indicated they have.
Madam Clerk, if you could switch over to my, showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 642. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
Is that a photo of Ms. McCandless's right leg that you took on March 27th, 2018?
Yes.
And it's this,
Is that in evidence yet?
I have no objection of move for the admission of Exhibit 327.
327? I think 327 is in. I'm asking about 642.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Does 642 accurately depict what you saw on March 27th when photographing her right leg?
Yes.
Move for the admission of 642, Your Honor.
Any objection to 642?
No.
All right, 642 will be received.
Permission to publish via my computer.
May,
The photo that you have in front of you, Exhibit 642, is that now showing up on the screen?
Yes,
And again, on the screen here, is it, and in the photo there, can you see the discoloration that we previously talked about on the 24th?
yes,
It appears to be a yellowing again throughout the area where there are cuts and puncture wounds, is that right?
yes,
Permission to publish the photo just in the, so they can see it firsthand, Judge?
you may.
Those are the only questions I have, Judge.
Any redirect, Ms. Noel?
We have just a moment.
Sure.
When they're done consulting, can I actually ask her some other questions I forgot to ask about the 331? My
Go ahead.
apologies. I'll wait until they're
I'm
done. Okay,
Okay. You may, again, reopen for us.
thank you, I apologize. I want to ask you some questions regarding some photos in Exhibit 331. Do you still have that there in front of you?
yes,
And in particular, the pictures of close-ups of Ms. McCandless in her underwear, okay? Are you there?
yes,
And as you start on, I think it's image 654, and then to 656, 657, and 658, I want to ask you about those questions as well, okay?
okay,
And again, on 654, there are some cuts that are visible, well, on her leg, is that right?
correct,
In 654, Ms. McCandless is wearing her underwear in what we would agree is a normal fashion, agreed?
correct,
And despite her wearing it in that normal fashion, the cuts to her leg are still visible outside of the area covered by the underwear, agreed?
correct,
Those marks that are, those cuts that are on her leg, you would agree, they cross over each other, right?
correct,
So again, you knowing the definition of parallel, you would agree that those cuts are not parallel, agreed?
correct,
And then as you turn the page to 657, it's at that point where Ms. McCandless's hand pulls her underwear to the side so that some of the area next to her vagina is visible now, correct?
that's correct,
And there are additional cuts that now you can observe that were behind that was previously covered by the underwear, agreed?
correct,
And again, some of those cuts go in directions that are not parallel to the other cuts, agreed?
correct,
They cross over, if not literally, they would if they continued on, right?
yes,
Those are the only questions I had, thank you.
All right, Kate, now redirect.
Yes, Investigator Merryfield, so how long had you worked for the sheriff's office at the time you took these photographs?
probably about a year,
And did you take some additional photographs that weren't included as exhibits?
yes,
And is it in those photographs that haven't been shown where a nurse was holding different items?
yes,
And when you describe the scratches in the photographs, do you know the direction of the scratches?
can you ask that differently?
I mean, you're just looking at them to see like, there's a cut, there's a scratch.
Yes.
You're not a doctor,
That's correct,
so you're not trying to determine the direction or the depth of any of these, is that right?
that is correct,
And you met with myself and the other attorneys before testifying today?
Yes.
And did we tell you how you were supposed to be testifying?
No.
Did we simply show you the photographs that we were going to be introducing as exhibits to ensure that you could, that they were accurate copies of the photographs you took?
Yes.
If I could approach, I wanted to grab two exhibits that you have. Exhibit 320. And if I could display on the Elmo, exhibit 320.
Go
And you
ahead.
were provided, asked some questions on that, on cross-examination of this. Could be shadow, could be red mark on the right side of the neck. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And if I show you and switch to my computer to exhibit 320, which photograph do you find to be more accurate as you remember taking it? The electronic copy or the printed copy?
The electronic copy.
And you don't have, how would you describe the difference in photographs?
In this,
Objection. Photos speak for themselves, I understand.
Sustained. I think the jury can see for themselves.
And I also wanted to show you exhibit 327. Ah, that's right here. So if I could switch to the Elmo of exhibit 327. You were shown that on cross-examination.
yes.
And showing you on my computer. Exhibit 327. Which photograph do you find more accurate, the paper copy or the electronic copy?
The electronic copy.
Okay. If you could take down the screen briefly. You were also shown a paper copy of what was marked Exhibit 642. If I show you an electronic copy on my screen, which picture do you find? Do you notice any difference in the pictures?
Can I see the paper copy again?
Sorry, here it is. So if I show exhibit 642 on the Elmo, and then we switch back to my computer screen, do you believe a difference in the mode of displaying the photograph has an impact on the picture quality?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Okay, any recross limited to redirect?
You would agree that regardless of the mode of how someone observes Ms. McCandless's leg on the 24th or the 27th, there's a bruise where the cuts are.
Correct.
And if we can, I want to ask you about, I believe it was 320, is that the picture of Ms. McCandless's neck from March 24th? Is that exhibit 320?
I don't have my paper copy up here anymore.
Fair enough. Sorry about that. You now have 320.
Okay.
You have 320 in your hand,
Yes.
and 320 is on the screen.
Yes.
When you were asked questions about 320 on the screen, nobody, Ms. Noto did not zoom it in, did she?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. And what you're saying, though, is what we're looking at now is the best representation of what you saw on that day. Agreed?
I think the paper copy that I have is a better representation than what is up on the screen right now.
Okay, so you're on the leg, regardless of the digital or paper copy, on the leg, you agree there's bruises, right?
Correct.
And they, both the digital and the paper document, correct?
Correct.
And your position today is, on the neck, the photo that you have in your hand, the paper copy, better represents what you saw that day than the digital copy, correct?
The one that I have in my hand versus the one that you put up in the Elmo.
They're the same one.
Okay.
You understand that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, and so I'm confused because you said one's better than the other, but there's only one. So you agree that, I think there's three different versions, maybe there's that. There's the paper copy that you see with your eyes.
Yes.
There's the paper copy that you see with your eyes when placed on the Elmo.
Correct.
And then there's the digital copy, which we see up on the screen now.
Correct.
So were you trying to distinguish between those three?
Yes.
How so?
The paper copy that I have is a more accurate description than any of the other ones.
Okay. And so the paper copy that you see better reflects what you remember you saw on that day, correct?
Correct.
You're not claiming anybody did anything to any of the digital photos, correct?
Yes.
And you would certainly agree that sometimes the quality of the camera in digital photography actually allows us to see things on the photo that we might not be able to see with our naked eye, correct?
Correct.
Or certainly might not remember as well, correct?
That's possible.
Because I imagine, had you made an observation that day, you might have taken more close-ups, correct?
Yes.
So on that day, you don't remember seeing a discoloration to the right side of her neck, agreed?
Correct.
But whether that is or isn't documented in the digital photo you took, that's up to the jury to decide, agreed?
Correct.
Is that a close-up of that same photo?
Yes.
There appears to be a discoloration once you zoom in on the right side of her neck to the part just below her mandibular
Objection, the
jawline.
photo speaks for itself.
I think it goes to her
Overruled.
eyes.
You can answer.
You would agree that there is a discoloration to the part of her neck just below her mandibular jawline. Agreed?
Whether or not it's shadowing, it's hard to tell up on this picture.
You would agree there is a discoloration. Agreed?
Objection asked and answered.
She can say she doesn't know why. She didn't say whether she agrees or disagrees that there's a discolorization in the photo.
All right, it's asked and answered, Mr. Nelson, and the photograph's been up there, and again, the jury, they can see it, and I don't think you need to continue beating on the same question.
Can I have permission to publish that photo just because her...
Yes,
her
you can
position-
publish that photo to the jury, that's fine.
Nothing else then, Judge.
Okay, and as, once that photo's been published, any further questions? Or no, we're all done. Okay, so Deputy Merryfield, you may step.
Judge, I'd ask that while the jurors are looking at that photo, that we can keep the computer screen up there since
Yes.
that's a
You can do that.